Another episode of Do What You Love. Hey guys, it's Jeff Kirkshin, and I want to thank you for listening or watching on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're consuming. Appreciate everybody for, just being a part of the podcast. I think that it makes a huge difference because when you're hosting a radio show, it's awesome because you got this built-in audience in their car, but to take the effort to go and find out this podcast and find out more, it really means a lot. So any of your ratings or any of your comments, would love to hear at Do What You Love JK. Today's guest, I haven't told him yet, but we've got a little bit of a rivalry. Now, I'm not putting him on the spot here, but I want to bring in lifelong Yankee fan, Barstool Sports. It's Eric Hubbs. What's up, brother? How are you?
What's going on, Jeff? Pleasure to be here. What's happening?
Right up front, I got to let you know, I am a Boston Red Sox fan.
That's tough. We talked for like 5 minutes before we went live here. Didn't come out there. You had to save it for here. That's brutal.
Right.
That's
well, before I talk with any guest, I give the opportunity, as we did. Hey, is there anything you don't want to talk about? Is there anything you don't want to hit? And like everything, you're so laid back, it was fine. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to save this bomb for the first 30 seconds of the pod. I'll tell you, because I love to talk baseball. Obviously, I'm in country music now, and this podcast hits every corner of the earth. I've had people starting their own nonprofits as a cancer survivor. I've had esports athletes. I've had everything, and I love it because it allows me to just do different things every week. But when I get to talk baseball, I talk baseball. As you know,
for sure.
I'm from a baseball family, so for me, this is great. So I became a Boston Red Sox fan because my grandfather grew up in Boston. He was born in the year 1919, and he died in 2003. So he never saw the Red Sox win a World Series. He lived to be 85 years old. And if there's one thing I've learned about sports, and the greatest rivalry in sports, I might add, is how much a sports fan can appreciate another sports fan, as long as you're not like cursing out their mom at a ball game or something like that.
Yeah.
you know? And so the rivalry is so beautiful. And your podcast, the Short Porch, part of Barstool's massive content curator podcasting that you guys do, which is incredible. I love that you guys just are so passionate about the game and so passionate about your team. And I'm glad we're doing this interview now instead of like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, because the Yankees are doing really well. And we're recording on September 2nd, and we're coming down to the end of the season. How exciting is it to have a podcast dedicated to a team that's doing really well right now?
It really helps because we started this a couple of years ago, and we're talking about it like the years prior to that, let's say 2015, 2014, those were pretty boring Yankee years. Like there was not much going on. And then once we kind of started, that's when Judge started to come up here and really become a factor, and Glaber gets involved, and then they start ripping off. They get to the playoffs, they win these wild card games, they get to the ALCS, the Astro stuff happens. All exciting stuff. We do it a few years back before that. I don't know if we generate any noise, so it's fun. I like if you're looking for like the true breakdown of baseball, we're not the podcast for you, but we're gonna be like the fans' voice. Like we say what's on our mind. We have no problem ripping players, and we have no problem pointing at ourselves when we make really stupid comments when it backfires, because that happens from time to time, or a lot of the times. But we're as raw as it gets, I like to think, and we just tell you how it is.
Well, not to be so like lame with this comparison, but it really does feel like a bunch of guys sitting at the bar on bar stools just chatting about the Yankees, right? And that's what makes it real, is like you guys don't have this air of, which a lot of us broadcasters do. I'll just be honest. I'm in the business, and a lot of people, I open up and, oh, Jason Aldean is doing this. What a great guy he is. And you can kind of get that like, oh, I'm bigger than you attitude, but that's not what your podcast is about. It's, hey, we're a bunch of guys chatting about the Yankees, and you are just like us. We are just like you.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, I don't know how to do it any other way. It's like authentic. Like we don't have like a shtick or like, make up takes just to like cause a stir, all that. We'll just do that on our own because we're idiots sometimes. But I'm just gonna tell you how it is. Like, if Gary Sanchez is not playing well, I'm gonna get on his ass. Like, I have an obsession for Luke Voit. I'm always gonna support that man no matter what. But like, that's what it comes down to. It's just raw. It's authentic. Whenever you see me at a bar, if you see me at Billy's before a game, I'll tell you the same thing that I said in the podcast, and I won't even think about it, like differentiating the two and like, oh, I have to be this person. No, it's just like, that's who I am. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm a dire Yankee fan. If the Yankees have a bad day, like my family knows to not talk to me that day and the next day. If I have a good day, that means they know I slept well the night before and I can actually have a conversation with them. That's what it is. The Yankees affect now. Is it unhealthy? 100%, without question. But like that's just how my life has been since my dad put a Yankee hat on me when I was like 2 years old. That's really what it's been like. Every single day I live and die with this team, and it's awesome. And now we do it for a living, which is insane and stupid at the same time.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit because Eric, I feel like you're more commonly known as Hubs around
Yep.
the Barstool world, but you're living the dream of so many people right now. You know, you get to work at a company like Barstool Sports, which is just an animal when it comes to content creation. I mean, you guys are just crushing it from everything from chicks in the office on one end of the spectrum of the world, right, to all the way to the deep takes of a Yankees podcast like the one you have. I mean, think about the amount of content you're covering and the amount of demographics you're covering. So for you, how did this come about? How did this start in the Barstool world?
Are you talking the short porch or
Yeah.
me? Or okay.
Well, both. I want to hear both because I think everybody and their brother wants to work where you work right now.
Yeah, everyone has their own story and their own path here. I always get DMs, and everyone does at Barstool. Like, I want to work here. Like, what do I got to do? There's no like me and like let's say someone like Trent. Like, we don't have the same path here. Like, everyone is just different, and you just have to. It really comes down to paving your own way, sticking to it, and just not losing like confidence in yourself that like, hey, like I kind of belong here in a way, although I definitely lose that from time to time. But but it is important for sure, because you got a lot of people, no matter what, on the internet, no matter what you're doing, people on the internet are always going to hate you. Like there will always be at least one person who disagrees with something, no matter how popular a take it may be. And then there's the controversial ones that a lot of people disagree with. So you have to just stick to your guns, really. But how it started, so I went to Syracuse, same with you, obviously. And 2015, I think you said you graduated.
Right.
I was 2016. I remember meeting your dad. He came to speak, I think, with Ravi, and maybe one other person. I forget. I think it was when the ACC, the Cuse was joining the ACC, and like I think they were coming for Duke, I want to say, and they did a whole panel. It was awesome. And so I actually never remember running into you because you were Newhouse. I wasn't. I was in CRS in VPA. I basically had a fake degree. Like they always tell you, like the biggest. I think we had a segment at Barstool the other day of like biggest lie you've ever told. On my resume, you write Syracuse and communications, and everyone thinks you're Newhouse, and that's the trick. But I wasn't. Mine was communication, not the S, communication and rhetorical studies, which is ethos, pathos, logos. And I can barely even tell you what those are anymore. And I can't tell you one thing I actually learned in that major, but it got me a degree from Syracuse, which honestly didn't even really get me a job at Barstool. Like they didn't even care when I applied and all that. Like they just cared about how my interview was and what I wanted to do, and how it seemed like I was going to act with people. But yeah, so I really did nothing at college for 4 years. I graduated with a pretty shitty GPA. Had no offers from anything because a low GPA from VPA, yeah, good luck like getting a job anywhere notable. So I took a sales job, cold calling sales job, worst job I've ever had and will ever have in my life, and I wouldn't recommend it on my worst enemy. Where basically I had to make 300 phone calls a day at least to universities throughout the country, like let's say Ohio State or Clemson, all that, and I would be selling ad space in their college basketball or college football programs. And I basically be selling them a scam. And anytime I made a deal, and it wasn't often because I was terrible at this job, I think I probably made 6 sales total. I made a sale my first call, and it was the biggest mistake because it all went to my head. It was just some schmuck who just like completely fell and just gave me like $600 or whatever. But I think I made 6 total sales in like 3 months. I was just so bad at it.
Oh my.
But it's constantly pressure. They listen to your phone calls all the time. They time you in the bathroom. If you're in the bathroom for too long, you can't go to the bathroom at certain times in the day. You have to take a lot. All of it was horrible. So I eventually was like, legitimately, it was just good pay. And I was living at home still with my mom in Jersey. So, it was nice to just have like a decent paycheck here and there. But my quality of life was horrific. And not that I truly cared about it too much because I was like, money's great. But it was, my mom saw like it was making me depressed, and I always loved Barstool, and I followed it religiously throughout college. It was always a pipe dream of mine. And you go back to me in 2015, 2016, hey, dude, you're gonna be working at Barstool and you're gonna be approaching your like 5th year there in 2021, I would like slap that guy in the face and be like, just stop. Like, what are you talking about here? But so they had just moved. They were doing a lot of they weren't all together. They were doing DC, Boston, New York, Chicago. They didn't have a main office. In 2016, in the summer, they moved to New York and they brought everybody. So then they were looking out for interns too. So they did their run-of-the-mill intern search. But to me, with no confidence at the time, I was like, I don't have a chance to stand out here. I'll make you laugh maybe one time a day if I'm lucky. There's no way I can impress like Dave Portnoy in an interview. No chance there. So I was like, I didn't even bother. And a little late. So after they did the normal intern search around, I want to say September, when I was like truly depressed from this job, I emailed the editor-in-chief, Keith Markovich, K Marco at the time. And I was like, hey, dude, I see you just became the editor-in-chief. You used to just be a normal blogger. And I was like, you definitely have a ton on your plate. And I knew he didn't have an intern yet. And he wasn't even looking for one. I was like, dude, let me help you. Like, let me be your intern. Like here's my resume. I wrote a whole thing for him. I like poured my heart out to him. And he randomly like responded, was like, yeah, when can you come in for an interview? And I like literally remember calling anyone I knew and be like, I have an interview at Barstool like next week. This is insane. Like, I didn't even know what to say. I didn't even know what I was going to do, but I was like, here's my chance. If I'm ever going to go all in on something, it's got to be it right now. Like, I never really had that desire and pull and push to do that, but like, this is it. This is the one.
Well, you know what's frustrating is a lot of people don't have that attitude, Hubs. Not a lot of people are willing to just shoot an email and just show up and say, okay, I'm just going to give it my all. They say, oh, they don't have a job opening. I have to formally apply, all this. No, slide into somebody's DMs, start a conversation with somebody, and put your best foot forward, because I think, especially in industries like Barstool, in radio, in television, like, it's so small at the end of the day. Like, you're going to know somebody. Like, even look at our relationship, right? Like, we don't personally know each other, but one DM to your Twitter account, and now you're on my podcast. So it's those kind of things that I wanted somebody from, you know, a baseball background in the Barstool world, because I'm fascinated with what you guys do. And I saw you, and I was like, oh my gosh, I know this guy. I've heard this name before. I know this podcast. And I found out Syracuse grad, the whole thing. So it was a match made in heaven. So you become an intern.
Yep.
And that kind of started it all off. First of all, I commend you for the cold calling job. That sounded like an absolute nightmare. Yeah. I could not imagine.
I will say, I think it's so important because you see so many people at Barstool these days, I feel like, come in and that's their first job as Barstool. And I genuinely think it hurts you in your drive if that is the case at Barstool specifically, and any job mainly, because I think if you come from a real job and you see what the real world's like for just a little bit, 3 months even, like what I did, you appreciate, because there's every job becomes a job at some point, no matter how great it is. Mm-hmm. There's always like, there's gonna be one day you're like, oh, I have to do this. When you come from like the real world and you go to Barstool like that, nothing is hard anymore. Like nothing is taxing to you. You're like, oh, I could still be doing 300 cold calls a day and hating my life and being excited. The only time I was happy was I was on an 1.5-hour bus into the city and back. That was my most exciting time of the day. Otherwise, I was just completely drained and miserable, and I just wanted to sleep all day. But like when you go from the real world to Barstool, it helps. It does you wonders, because you can have that reflection back to like, you remember how bad it was 5 years ago? Do you ever want to do anything like that again? No. Okay, so man up, sack up, and let's just do this. Done.
Yeah.
And there's like very minimal things where that happens at Barstool, but like in any job becomes a job at some point. But I think starting in a real world situation like that and going to that, especially as low as a cold calling situation is, I think it does wonders just for like the future. But yeah, so I start working. The only way they were going to bring me on was unpaid for 6 months. Well, they didn't even give honestly, I was brought on with like no guarantees, anything. I basically was like, I will figure something out. I will carve my way here. I don't know what yet, but give me a little bit of time. And it worked out. 6 months into it, I was basically ready. My mom supported me, God bless her soul, for as long as she could, like financially, like paying for my buses and all that, which weren't cheap either. And, you know, lunch money and all this. Like, I mean, I'm a broke college kid out of school. I don't have any money really. And she backed me and she supported me. And a lot of my friends were like, hey man, like, they all have full-time jobs at this point. And they're like, what are you doing? Like, you're just being these guys, like there's no prospects here. Like you're not making an impact. And then 6 months in, I had made an impact, and I got that call. I was working 2 jobs at the time. Like, I was at my other job on the weekends, and he was like, "Hey, we're ready to bring you on and start paying you." And that was just part-time. But to me, part-time compared to like nothing was like, I literally almost cried. And then from there, I think it took me like a year and a half to become full-time. And then once it became full-time, it was off and running. And by then I was blogging. I originally blogged college football to start there, because it was just something no one else was doing at the time. I like college football. I gamble on college football a ton. I don't know, like, I'm not an X's and O's college football guy, like 3, 4 defenses and what to play, what pass to throw in 2 man. I know something like that, but like I'm not like, there's no true passion of mine when I write college football. So, but it was just something no one else was doing. So I was like, hey, this will get me on the site. Okay, let's do this. Let's try and figure this out. And then eventually that kind of waned off, and I was allowed to blog a little Yankees. They had a part-time Yankees guy at the time, but he wasn't really doing it as a hobby. And I was like, I can do this better. And I think I can put my heart into this. And, the other guy was doing another full-time job at the time. So he was just distracted. I think he was moving with his family to another state or whatever. So I was like, hey, I'm going to jump on this. And then I was allowed to blog other stuff. And then along came the podcast, where I met Tommy as an intern, and we worked together. And then we met Mush a little bit later when he came on, and now we're here. And I do a whole lot other stuff for Barstool that people don't know about. Like, people think it's always like a funny thing that I don't care enough on the internet to argue with people. Like, I wish, like, if you were in person, if I saw you at a bar and you question me, I'd be like, hey, you want to know why I didn't do that? Because I was doing this. Because the Yankees are realistically 15 to 20% of what I do at Barstool. I do a whole lot of other things. Not to like brag or anything, or like, using an excuse, but like, there's a lot that I do on a day-to-day basis. I love the Yankees, and I put my heart into it whenever I can. And I really try and work as much as I can, like, throughout the course of a 7-day week. And I just love it. When you love something as much as, like, I love Barstool and what I do for a day, for a living, like, it's so easy to just never put it down, and it's always working, because I just want to contribute as much as I can. So that's in short of how I ended up here, and why you're even talking to me at this point.
Well, you're a lucky guy, and that's for sure. We're on with Eric Hubbs of Barstool Sports. Okay, so then you enter the podcasting space, in the podcasting world. How are you able, within the confines of working in Barstool, if you come up with an idea, if you come up with a team that you want to pitch a podcast to, how does that process go about? Because now you guys are seeing some good success. I mean, it's a successful podcast. We'd love to see it.
Yeah. That is the beauty of Barstool. If you have an idea, like, the freedom is all yours. Like, you don't have to run up the flagpole, whatever. Well, to an extent you do, but like, there's no like approval. Like, if you have an idea and you think it's going to work, go for it. And like, there's no restrictions really. Like, if it works, and you're off and running. So, but I personally had never done a podcast before, like, going into it. So, but obviously I was like, hey, I can talk baseball. I know what I'm doing here. I love this team. I think this can work. Same with Tommy. Tommy had experience at Fordham doing radio for them. So he had experience in front of the camera and the mic. I only had a little bit there. So I said, hey, let's not like make this official or whatever. Let's do this for about a year, get ourselves good. Still like release it to like the public and all that. And like, but like, don't make it an official podcast where we're getting sponsors and all that. Let's wait a year, get good at this, get some episodes under our belt, do a year, and then we can bring it up to, the upstairs. And that's what happened. And then we eventually got greenlit. I forget I want to say it was 2018. My years are all convoluted here, but it was right before spring training, and we got the green light to go down to Tampa, which was awesome. And interview players down there. It was just a dream. It was literally like, we interviewed John Sterling, and it was the coolest moment like of my life, like just standing right there. And it was crazy. But yeah, that it was all a whirlwind, but all worked out. And yeah, truly, the beauty of Barstool is the freedom you have here. No doubt about it.
That's so cool, because, I mean, content is king. We're told that all the time at my radio company. Is like, if you have an idea, if you have something you want to do, go do it and prove to us that you can do it. And that's why when I pitched this podcast, I did like 5 or 6 episodes and just straight up didn't release them. I got like 5 of my closest people that I knew would be great interviews. One being my dad. That was a pretty easy one to book. And I said, like, hey, like, I'm going to pitch this, but I want to show them, hey, show me, don't tell me. Here is the content. I have 5 episodes. That's 5 weeks. I release weekly episodes every Tuesday. And it's stressful because I'm a one-man band. But at the end of the day, I love it. And that's what this podcast is all about. Do what you love. And, you could either be making 300 cold calls a day, making decent money, but hating your life, or you can literally be doing what you love and figuring it out every single day, working hard at a company like Barstool that you feel cared for there.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to get a guest on here for Do What You Love who's a cold caller. I don't think you're going to get one single person who enjoys that. But yeah, I agree. I think it's people always ask me, what's your favorite thing about working at Barstool? And I could list you a ton of things. I think the number one thing is I get out of bed every day and I don't dread going to work. And I don't think there's many people out there. There's not many professions out there that can say that. And I legitimately love going to work. I love interacting with everybody. I love being in the mix. It's just an absolute blast. Like, you pinch yourself here and there. You're like, wait, I'm at a Yankee game right now. Like, and we're going to record a Yankee podcast after this. And that's just like part of the job. It's like, it's absolutely surreal. It's so cool.
Yeah, we just actually, in honor, I guess you could say, more or less, of Labor Day, we talked about on the show, on my radio show, of what country music stars did at one point. The crazy, stupid jobs. People, butchering cows for a butcher shop. Or, and you think of these stars as cleaning bathrooms at a golf course. These are what they did before. And you brought it up earlier, the perspective of knowing how bad life can be, I guess you could say. Yeah. And then that allows you to appreciate. And I think that comes a lot from kids, child stars, whatever, who have grown up in that world where they never really roughed it. They never really had to bust a table. They never really had to do any of that stuff. I mean, I was a Little League umpire for years. And that's how I took girls on dates. It's like I'd have a game. Okay. And then I'd make like $48, and then I'd do another game and make another 48, and that's the most I could spend that night. And I'm telling you, it was the hardest job I've ever had, and I loved it. Don't worry. I mean, I got to be on a field again. I was doing youth baseball, but like high-end travel ball, those East Coast leagues. Yeah. Dealt with a lot of New York and New Jersey dads. Let me tell you right now, my gosh, some scary men right there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We care about our Little League, I'll tell you that.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, those men know how to yell at me and their kids. And, but like me.
The weird part for that is when when the adult doesn't have a kid on the team. That's the weird one.
I know.
There's always one of those people, and they're very weird.
It's so strange. I've broken up fights in public parks. I have done it all. But like, to a certain perspective, yeah, I love baseball. I loved umpiring, and I would do it again if I had the time. But it was a rough job. Long hours in the sun, everybody hates you. Like, as you said, like, you get DMs all the time for hot takes and cold takes, and everybody. Like, that was public enemy number one is the umpire, because everyone.
It's a thankless job.
I appreciate that. So that and being a nurse. Yeah. We're on with Eric Hubbs of Barstool Sports, a Syracuse grad. I do want to take a little, just a minute to talk Syracuse, because we both are graduates of that great university. And for you, was there something we were deemed, I think it would have been your freshman or sophomore year, we were deemed the number one party school in the country?
Yeah, I think that was
something like that.
That was the same year, which I guess your freshman year, that they went undefeated to start the basketball season, like 26-0.
It was insane.
Say.
I did not.
The half court shot by Ennis against Pittsburgh at the buzzer, that was insane. Yeah,
it was all so cool. I didn't appreciate that when I was a freshman. I didn't understand. Like, I always loved college basketball, and I really started to love Syracuse after Carmelo Anthony's year. That run was just, legendary. Yep. And I think a lot of us are that way, right? And but I didn't really understand it because I was living it, right? So every day it was like, oh, this is awesome. My team's great. And then as years went on, in my senior year, we just pulled ourselves out of the tournament because of the vacated wins and all of that stuff. And you don't really, in the moment, I got 2 years of Big East ball, which was so cool, and then 2 years of ACC. So I kind of lived in such a great time to be there, and you got to see both, being a freshman.
I got really lucky. I got freshman year Final Four, senior year Final Four, sophomore year 26-0, and then that's the ACC, the first ACC year where they get the Duke game, which was that first Duke game was crazy with Suleiman at the sent it to OT or whatever. My brain is so bad, like with memories, but I'll never forget that stuff.
Right.
And then junior year was a wash for sure. Like you said, they just pulled themselves out. And then 2016, they weren't even like good really, and they just found their way to the Final Four. The freshmen and sophomore that I got very spoiled compared to what other people get at most college 4 years. I feel like they didn't win, but in college basketball, it's all about getting the Final Four. Really, like that run to get there is almost like a championship in itself.
Oh, it was insane. I actually was living in Cleveland, Ohio that 2016 year, and I drove out to Syracuse. It was not that far of a ride because I just wanted to be on campus for the Final Four game. We ended up losing to UNC, which was heartbreaking. And
yeah, we couldn't stop their alley-oop with Bryce Johnson. That was,
I know.
But I will always remember that Elite Eight win against UVA. I think that was the Elite Eight.
Yeah. Malachi Richardson with the comeback.
Like, that's one of the things where right before March Madness starts, always go hop on YouTube. I'm a big like YouTube highlights guy. I always get ragged on it by the guys in the podcast. Like, oh, you're so weird. You look at YouTube highlights of like moments at night. I'm like, I get bored. It's just what I do. But I always go back and watch that comeback where they just absolutely put Virginia in a blender.
I can't even begin to explain to you. I'm not kidding how many times I have watched the game highlights. So tell your buddies that you're not the only one, okay? I have watched Malachi Richardson save over the stats table, right? And he turns around and he's got the under the hoop fake pass just for the layup, and Tyler Lydon, the shoe in the first half.
Yeah,
like,
the shoe.
I could break if I could break that.
Cooney I think had a full court press steal and like threw the guy out of it. Was then there was a play. I always get the Gonzaga game in that little. Yeah. There was a play where Cooney was called out of bounds when he just wasn't, when he stole the ball, and was like, I thought that was like going to be the game, and then they ended up still pulling it out. But crazy. That 2016 run was so fucking cool.
Yeah, it really was, especially being what the year before was. No ACC tournament, no NCAA tournament, and just kind of like a sad, crying ending to the season, like, what the hell? And I remember tweeting, and this was before, and I don't even have that much of a Twitter following. I love Twitter, though. I love scrolling. But it was like my most popular tweet. I said, like, right after it came out, people were pissed, people were mad, and I was like, hey, listen, like, I didn't sign up to be a Syracuse fan for 4 years, all right? So, like, I know it's senior year, I signed up for life. So, like,
there you go.
It sucks, but at the end of the day, I got this for life. And then 2016 happened. I was like, yes, hell of a year.
There you go.
Beautiful. So, with that being said, you being a New York guy, a Yankee fan, Barstool's got a lot of Boston fans out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And do you guys find yourself after a big Yankees-Red Sox matchup the night before, the night of, are you going out with the Boston guys at all? And with that being said, it's looking like we could have a wild card matchup in the greatest rivalry in sports.
I've been since I've kind of realized the division's over, like a week ago. Now you just look at the wild card and you're like, oh, let's look at schedules. And it's like, I don't know if Red Sox are going to fade here. I mean, Corona might have something to do with it, but it's looking like they're on a collision course here. But to your first question, in the regular season, and like we go up to Boston, they come here or whatever. And also I'm friends with like everybody, bro. I love those guys. But regular season, it's fine. We can go out. Playoffs, if they lose like game one in Boston or something like that, I'm going back to my hotel and going to sleep. Like, I'm not going out with those people. Not a chance. I have a few friends in Boston, so maybe I'll see them. But like, I can't. I would literally like. I could not even imagine losing like a playoff game. Like I told you, I'm sick to my stomach when they lose a regular season game. Like when this 4-game losing streak they had, like with the A's and Angels, didn't know what to do with myself. And then, so they lose a game, the Red Sox in the playoffs. I am beside myself. I get the text from my mom. The night they're like, I'm so sorry as if it was her fault, as if she pitched for the Red Sox that night or was hitting. And then she knows to leave me alone. She knows, okay, I'll talk to them tomorrow, maybe like when there's some good news. But yeah, no, I am, when they lose in the playoffs, any of those games, I am mortal enemies with those people. Like, I can't stand them. Season's over, we can go out, no problem. But like playoffs, absolutely not. Mortal enemies.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because no matter what, you know what it's like to be them in a loss, and they know what it's like to be you in a loss. So like, but the annoying thing about sports is when you win, you don't care. At least for me. Like, I had a friend who went to Indiana. It's actually an ex-girlfriend of mine, but we were so young that it was almost stupid to call each other boyfriend and girlfriend. But she went to Indiana, and I think it was 2011, 11-12 season, so right before you came to Syracuse. They beat Indiana in like the round of 32 or something, and I like blew her spot up, and like the whole camp, they were the number 1 seed. Indiana was, and I blew her spot up, and I felt bad. Like, I looked back at the message, and I was like, if this were me, number 1 Syracuse, I would have been like livid. I would have been so mad at myself. Or
I want to say actually that was my freshman year, if I'm not mistaken.
It might have been.
I believe it was.
It was.
Yeah,
You know what? You're right. It was because I was living over on South Campus. Legendary.
Yeah.
God.
Oh my God.
Woo.
I'd stay very far away from there. I had to be on campus or near it. But yeah, I believe that was freshman year. That was a crazy upset. That was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question for you, Eric. Before I let
Yep.
you go, I ask every baseball fan this question: greatest baseball movie of all time is what?
Major League.
Wow! Out
I
of
love Major
left
League.
field, Major
You know,
League.
Field of Dreams is great, and they did that awesome. My favorite movie to watch is For Love of the Game. I love with Costner.
Mhm.
And that almost might be my answer, but I know it's so unpopular, and I don't care what other people. Moneyball's baseball movies are just by far the best sports movies I think of any sport out there. I don't know. Major League, man, is just so good. It has everything in it. The characters are great. The story is great. It's so real. And for a movie to be made like that long ago, I feel like, and it still plays like I'm the guy where like old movies to me don't do it. Like any sense of just like not modern, done. But Major League to me still plays. I love Major League. It's really 1A, 1B, that and For Love of the Game. Even if and that tells you even more because the Yankees are the victim in that movie, and you know they're the villains, and I still love that movie. I love Costner, Kelly Preston, R.A.P. I don't know. Now that may be like now I'm trying to remember it, but it's very close. It's those two. It might be a tie, but yeah. Bull Durham's great, of course. What's your answer?
Mine's Field of Dreams.
Okay.
Which I'm glad that came up in the conversation. It's just been a movie that my family has loved forever. Always loved it. Watching that Field of Dreams game, I mean, I read articles written by guys at Barstool and written all across the blogging universe that said like this is the greatest thing to happen
It really was.
to Major League Baseball probably ever. And
they like to ruin so many things, and they finally hit it out of the park with this one.
That's a great way of putting it. Great perspective. We'll end
they
it.
Couldn't even mess this one up. But no, that intro to me, like I was like stunned. Like
Chills.
It was just so. Although I didn't know if Costner was ever going to stop walking out there before they brought the players.
I know.
He was doing a dramatic acting walking out there. But
did they tell him how long to pause for? Did he have an IFB in? They're like, okay, now pause.
No.
Look left. Look right.
Great. He had to know cues in like the song of like, okay, stop, look at the baseball, do this or whatever. But like it was like 2 minutes, and I was like, what's going on?
I know.
But like I'm not even gonna rip on that. Like it was just so cool. I hate how the game ended, but even like as a baseball fan, just in general, taking away the Yankee bias in me, like the perfect like roller coaster of a baseball game to go with the whole setup, which was so cool. I'm happy they're going to continue doing it. I wish it wasn't Cubs next year because they're going to be abysmal. I wish it was like Giants, Dodgers or something, but I do get that they want to do the Cubs. But I was surprised that baseball actually nailed this one.
Yeah, and it definitely helped having a great game. Sorry for the loss, but a great game nonetheless. So thank you so much, Hubs, for this great conversation. Honestly, to get to talk Syracuse, to get to talk baseball, to get to talk, the world of podcasting too, that, you and I are both a part of now, it seems. So I wish you all the best of luck with the short porch and all of the stuff you're doing with Barstool. And I'm going to make sure to add in the show notes and everything where people can follow you and where people can take a listen to your podcast too. Because if you are a Yankee fan, or I might even add, if you are a Yankee hater, you might have some fun listening.
We do get some hate lists, I'll tell you that. People love to hate us. No doubt about that.
My dad taught me one thing growing up. He said whether they love you or they hate you, they're listening. So,
yeah, if they don't listen, that's a problem. So if you get if they listen, they hate you, I'll take it. I'll drink my tears, sure. I don't care.
Right, Stephen A. has made that a career. All right, so Eric Hubs, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you joining the podcast today.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.